Thank you, Rachel. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for making time on a Monday afternoon. I know people would like to start the week, but I do appreciate everyone's time on a Monday to do this. So today, we're going to talk about a little bit about OSIP, the Office of Careers Industry Partnerships, as well as my division, which is career development and internships. But also I want to hear from you folks about what you're interested in seeing and what you're hearing from your students and how we can work together to make the internships more meaningful, but also more practical for the students themselves. So I'll share my screen and I have a presentation. And in this presentation, I have some links in here that I hope you can use as a resource that connects to folks in our teams and our programs. And we'll go over that in as we continue through this conversation. So just one second. Everyone can see the screen? Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Great. And feel free, if I don't see anyone's hand raised or any questions, feel free to either put in the chat or speak up. Okay, and again, hopefully much of this is familiar to folks. In the Office of Careers and Industry Partnerships, we focus on building programming that is around building up skills and preparing students for real-life internship and job opportunities. So our goals are really to make sure that our students are best prepared in partnership with what they're learning on campus so that they have the skills they need for the workforce, but also that they can build on and increase their economic mobility through direct employer engagement. So here are the folks that are on our senior leadership team that might be useful and helpful. And I encourage you to reach out to me or other folks as you see fit. So I know folks are familiar with Lauren Anderson, who's our University Associate Provost. Sharissa Townsend is our Chief of Staff and Assistant Dean. Myself, Jennifer Dillon is our Senior University Director for Talent, Innovation, and Industry Partnerships. And her work and her team, and some of you may be familiar with this at your campuses, is working directly with employers to engage them to work with CUNY as a whole, but more so to provide internship and employment opportunities for our students. So you may be familiar with CUNY Inclusive Economy, Futures in Finance, the Industry Support Hub, that work with select campuses to provide direct student support to these opportunities. So if you have, I think some folks had mentioned that if you know of partners or if you know of employers or industry groups that are interested in working with us, Jennifer would be the right person to connect with. You can always connect to me and I'm happy to share that information. But our goal is to make sure that we are recruiting and welcoming a host of employers that want to work with our student and our student body, but also to help develop the skills that we need to make that employment transition. Helen Foster is our Senior University Director of Continuing Education and Equity. And within her portfolio, her team works on programs that you may be familiar with, like upskilling, which is a virtual presentation of workshops or courses, like Coursera is also available through there. And that's open to non-CUNY students as well. So it's for folks that are coming back to school or interested in just learning new skills or building up their skills so they can access that. There's also our Tech and Residency Corps, again, focusing specifically on technology and looking at ways to have classroom learnings to make sure that we are providing opportunities for all students, but focusing on students of color to make sure that they're represented in technology sector. Here's just an overview of the mission that we have within Career Development and Internships, CDI, as it'll be called throughout the presentation. Again, we're thinking about how to work strategically within our central office, but also across the campuses to scale career development opportunities and internship programming so that every CUNY graduate has at least one paid internship opportunity to increase their employment opportunities. So I'm sure many of you have come across or have read the recently published strategic plan, CUNY Lifts New York, and within that, we have a goal of tripling our internship opportunities for students. And again, the key thing being paid internship opportunities. And I know there's challenges within that, and our goal is to make sure that we can work on that so that we have, by 2030, close to 40,000 students that will have these internship opportunities, at least one before they graduate, hopefully more. Our second goal in CDI is to partner with folks like you and other campus stakeholders to ensure that the careers and the skill building is integrated into across all curriculum thoughtfully and with measurable outcomes to ensure that when students go through this process and they graduate, they have something that will give them the confidence to show up in the workplace and have an understanding of how to perform. And lastly, something that we're working on, which I don't know how many folks are familiar with, is that we're building this central alumni platform that works across all campuses to allow students from different campuses to work together. So if someone went to City College or John Jay or Burr Manhattan Community College, they have this opportunity to help each other and share resources. So a resource could be sharing a job opportunity, an internship program at their employer, or if they have someone that's going to be joining that employer, they could be their buddy to help them understand the culture there, help them understand what how things run there. So we're working to establish this network so that we can have one voice as CUNY and give opportunities to all the students through our alumni network. And again, working in partnership with the campuses as well to make sure that where there's direct relationships available, we want to make sure those are secured as well. Just going to take a pause. Yes, this presentation will be shared. The internship opportunities are predominantly for undergrad, but some of our partners do like to work with graduate students, so it depends on the employer that we work with. So the answer is yes, but where we can, we do encourage it and we try to make them available. So on this screen, again, as a resource, I've linked the senior members on my team. That would be helpful. That could, if you have questions or if you have any partners, or if your students have questions, or if you want them to come into your classrooms to talk about any of these opportunities, I just added them here so that you would have access to them. In the next slide, I'm going to go over the programs that they're associated with so you get a better idea of how they could be of use and how they could be helpful. But quickly, Colette Labrador and Melissa Fernandez, they work on internship programming that's tied to students that have never had an internship before. So you want to make sure we can focus on folks that either because they're working already and they never had the chance or they weren't sure, but these internship opportunities are tied to programs like something called Career Launch or Spring Forward, where we've really focused on students at whatever academic year they're in, that they have a chance now, and we prioritize them to make sure they get an internship opportunity. And it's within multiple sectors, which I'll go into in a minute. Tara Carson Pace is our director for CUNY Internship Program. And here, the majority of the focus of her portfolio is around partnerships with the public sector. So we work with a lot of city agencies, over a dozen city agencies, and including Department of Education, Health Department, Corrections, parks, et cetera, so that students have an opportunity to understand how public sector works and what happens there, and understanding how working in a bureaucratic system. We also have a great internship program with MTA. We just launched a little over a year ago. Again, working throughout the MTA in many different divisions, learning their operations, learning everything from public safety, policy operations, to their comms and marketing, to working on, if you want to work on the train system. So lots of different opportunities in there in Tara's portfolio, amongst other programs, again, thinking about providing students insight and access to understand that. Ernesto Malave Jr. is our assistant director for the Edward T. Rogowski ETR Internship Programming in Government and Public Affairs. So this would be for students that are interested in working with local electeds, whether they're here locally in New York City or housed in Albany. There's 3 or 4 internship opportunities throughout the year where students can work with a local official. It could be a borough president, it could be a council member, and it's giving you insight how to work on constituent services, on policy, on understanding the needs of your community locally, and again, in Albany. And those internships are available in the fall, the spring, as well as the summer. And then Nicola Clement is our associate director for alumni activation. She's working on coming up with a platform, coming up with the partners, thinking about how alumni can work with their employers to get our students the network and the reach to get these employment opportunities.
So just flagging a question in the chat about
sure, thank you.
Data. You know, there's some interest in what the data looks like now, given that you've stated that the goal here is to have every CUNY grad have at least one paid internship. Can you share the current state?
So the current, thank you, Rachel, for flagging that. So the current state right now is, I believe we're between, from the data that we have collected now, I think everyone's familiar with the data challenges that we have in CUNY, but we do our best, and where we can put the data together, we do. We're at, I think, between 9 and 10% of CUNY students graduate with a paid internship. And so I want to say that's like 11,000 to 12,000 off the top of my head. I'm sorry, I can't remember exactly. And that's why that goal to triple it would bring us like closer to that 40,000 number. So I can also after this meeting, I'll share whatever data I have if it's helpful to folks, so they can see a little bit more context of that. So right now we're there. Again, this doesn't also, just to be clear, this doesn't account for students who do internships on their own, right? So there are students that are proactive and interested, and they may be doing this without any correlation to their coursework or to their college, and they're doing these internships. So we don't have a record of that yet, or we haven't found a way with the campuses to mark those or get students to, talk about that or acknowledge those types of internships yet. Okay, yeah,
Great.
so we'll share that.
Is there another question? I think when I started talking, I heard another voice in the mix. Was someone chiming in?
Well, it doesn't seem like that, but may I go with a question, please?
Of
Sure.
course.
So with regards to the MTA, which is a new initiative, in terms of the community colleges, I come from one, do we have access to that for our own students? And then the second question is, what data do you have on the apprenticeship program CUNY-wide, please?
So for this presentation, I don't have data on the apprenticeship program, but I can talk to you more about that, and I can find out some things, and we can share that. Rachel, I don't know if you have anything to add, but I think I can follow up with that afterwards. Does that work?
Sure. Sounds great.
Okay,
Yes.
thanks. And so for the MT internship, so this slide, again, I wanted to give a brief description of our program. So here's like a little bit of a snippet of some of the programs that we have that, again, are hopefully helpful to you folks. But to your point and question about the MTA, again, as the question about the graduate students, all of our internships are ideally open to all students that have a minimum, I believe, of like 30 credits or 30. There's like a minimum credit a threshold. And for the MTA, it really depends on the posting that the employer provides. So if it's helpful, I can also share some postings so that you have an idea of what different types of opportunities that are available. But we do encourage, and we do have a focus, like I said, in Career Launch and Spring Forward, to make sure that our community college students, especially, like, they get that opportunity before they graduate, and those that are starting out their bachelor's. But for the MTA, I believe there are some opportunities, and we've had success with that. So like I said, this is our second year working with them. And if you don't see something, feel free to let me know, and we will work with them and ask them and push them to make sure that those opportunities are available.
Thank you.
Yeah, no worries. So here again, as a resource, is a slide that is showing just a snippet of each of our programs. And as I mentioned, we have programs that focus on folks that have never had an opportunity, whether they're sophomore, freshman, juniors, seniors, community college, four-year college, what have you. We have the MT internship. We have something also called CUNY Cultural Core, which is very exciting. It gives opportunities to our students to work at one of the many museums that we have, other culture institutions, including zoos, libraries, etc., so that they get that exposure. And then also oftentimes the conversion to employment happens, which is very exciting as well. So this is a program that takes place. Recruitment just ended for that, unfortunately, but there's an interest form up that they can sign up for next year, and it takes place over the next year.
Amna, who's the central office contact for Cultural Core? There's a question in the chat about that.
Sure, it's Kimberly Rios, but Melissa and Colette are the main contacts, but I can actually add that too.
Great.
Yeah, Kimberly Rios is the person, but I'll make a note of these things to make sure that I include them in the follow-up. Great. So Edward T. Rogowski, as I mentioned, it's all about working with an elected or in public affairs and government. CUNY internship programming is getting an understanding of how to work with the public sector, and including the 311 call center and what it means to work at scale with such an infrastructure. We also have programming, to your point about graduate students, I apologize. The OTI Fellowship is an example of where we focus on graduates. right? So if you're a graduate student or a CUNY graduate, this is an opportunity through the Office of Technology and Innovation, who changed their name this year under the Adams administration, but it's full-time opportunity that you get to work with a city agency, and you get within that 3 years you can convert into employment as well. But it's a full-time opportunity, and we launched this actually this summer. That was very exciting as well. Internship to employment, which I'll talk about a little bit more, is again the same idea. This is focused on seniors. So we had something that focused on students earlier in their academic learnings, and this is for seniors, where we work with New York City small businesses. And this is going to be an 8 to 10 week internship that's paid for students. And then if the employer chooses to convert them to employment, we subsidize that employment period for 20 weeks. So again, incentivizing them to keep the students on, to work with them, to develop them into full-time employees. And then lastly, we discussed about alumni activation, which is again creating this platform for alumni across CUNY to work together to provide opportunities. So just to give you an idea of types of requirements and opportunities, we're currently recruiting for Spring Forward. So in this presentation, I've linked the application, and the application is going to be open to October 2nd. And Spring Forward starts in late February into late April. And these are the areas of focus, right? There's marketing, communication, science, technology, STEM, typically, including sustainability. There's community services, nonprofit, social services. So for folks that want to work with CBOs or other social services, and healthcare. And so we partner with campuses to make sure that across the CUNY colleges, students can apply for these opportunities. And they're all $20 an hour, and the expectation is to work 15 hours a week, again, through the spring semester. And here is an idea of the requirements, as mentioned. So you have to have at least a 2.0 GPA. You have to have a social security number to participate. You should not have had a prior internship. Again, this one focuses on making sure that these are students that have not had an opportunity to do an internship. And you have to have your availability and be a current student and a student for the next semester. Any questions about this internship? And these are the same requirements for Career Launch, but Career Launch takes place over the summer. So these would be the same thing. So you can have students apply now for the spring, and then in the spring, we'll have the opening for the summer opportunity. Okay.
Yeah, hi. Can I ask you a quick follow-up? So how you're reaching the students?
Great, thank you for the question. So the team that's led by Colette and Melissa, the way that this program works is we work with 4 or 5 campuses. And so that's one way that we partner with the campuses to get the word out. We have the strong social media, which includes Instagram, there's campaigns that are put up, there's email blasts, there's faculty partners that we work with, as well as just the general newsletters and mass communicating that the comms team at Central does. So that is our goal. I am very interested in figuring out how to work more directly in the classrooms. So that I haven't figured out yet, but so far our marketing plan has been such that we use the traditional channels that we have, as well as working with our campus partners individually to make sure that they make students aware of these opportunities. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I'm just wondering if these are dates and the timeline is kind of routine. Is it possible to get it in the first week of classes where the faculty can basically relay into their classroom? Because now it is kind of in the middle of the semester, and October 2nd comes way too fast.
That's fair, and I appreciate you flagging that. That makes a lot of sense. I will share that with the team and work on how we can perhaps get that at the top of the year. Sometimes this is tied to funding, and that's a challenge, but ideally we would have this before the semester starts. That you are correct.
And Amna, we're hoping that you see the faculty fellows who are part of this program as potential partners in this, outreach,
Yes,
right? I mean, I think everyone
absolutely.
wants to make as many students as possible aware.
Yeah.
Kathy and Deborah, I see your hands. Kathy?
Yes, sorry my camera's off. I've not been feeling well and I don't look presentable today. Amna, thank you so much for this. And yes, I was going to say pretty much what Rachel said. Since our faculty career success fellows are finding ways to bring this information into their classrooms, would you or others in your office be willing to come into classrooms and talk for 10 or 15 minutes and share these things with students?
Absolutely. I think that would be
Fantastic.
great.
That's
Yeah.
great.
Like I said, feel free to reach out to me and I can work with my colleagues. However that works for you folks, I think that is the next step in this work that we need to do is to bridge that. So thank you, Kathy, for bringing that up.
Thanks so much.
Yeah, absolutely.
Deborah?
Deborah? Yeah.
Oh, thank you, Rachel. Amna, thank you also. Yeah, I think my question is related to the last two comments, really. I was going to ask you if you had an example of how it's worked out with working with a campus partner, like exactly, what transpired. Do you have a good example of of a relationship that's worked really well?
Sure. So the way that Spring Forward and Career Launch work, and thank you for the details. So Spring Forward serves 700 students, Career Launch serves 2,000 students. And so far, we've been meeting our goals and been successful. And the way that has worked is that each of these are called a hub, and we partner with a campus. And that campus, their career services folks are tasked with coming up with how to market the students and reach the students based on each of these hubs. So I don't know specifically how they're reaching out to each individual campus, but my understanding is that the way that these campuses apply to be a hub is they demonstrate their reach and their understanding of the students in each of these sectors. And so I do know that I don't think there's any in classroom, like Kathy was saying, which would be a great next step. I think this is more about from the student side reaching them, whether it's through student campaigns or through the career services or on-campus awareness or the local campus social media. From my understanding, there hasn't been anything more direct in the classroom, but that's definitely something that I think would increase awareness and make it more reachable for students.
Okay, thanks. That helps a lot.
Thanks, Deborah. Marissa?
Hi, thank you so much for the presentation and the information. It's wonderful. Professor Linda Diaz is also here present today for this workshop, and we're together at City Tech. We're in the middle of right now collecting a lot of data with each of our programs, each department, each of the schools in terms of their internships, requirements, credits, number of hours, is it in their associate, bachelor's, is it required, etc. What we're finding out is there are a lot of different details, a lot of different information. Some are paid, some are not. They're given a list of potential employers, and then they have to actually go interview and get selected. Some of them, they actually, the students get the internships themselves. So I think what would be helpful for us, because we do have such a varied approach, department by department, major by major. And I know our students would most definitely be interested in paid internships, particularly my program, because they're not. It's credit-based only, and there's accreditation reasons for that as well. I'm just thinking about how to fit it into the curriculum already, the schedule of classes they have to take, the required courses, both in their major and their non-major, and how to get this worked in, because career experience on their resume, again, is vital, and having different resources in different places to have those internships would really add value in terms of their marketability and their skill sets. So I mean, we're definitely, as I'm sure everyone on today hearing the presentation, we are definitely interested, and we will be in touch with you in terms of, how best to get this information out to the professors in all of the departments, to the chairs, especially those that have these internships.
Can I ask what subject you're focused on?
Oh, my background is in law, so it's a paralegal program. So we're accredited by the ABA, and so the students do have to do 160 hours in their internship in the associate degree, and then we have one in the bachelor degree, and that's their option. It is required, but they can take that or an advanced legal research course. And generally, the basis is they want to develop their skill sets either in the employment side or in the research side to better help them in terms of marketability.
Okay, thank you. That's super helpful. And again, this is the type of information I share with Jennifer as she's going out and sourcing employers and industry groups to make sure. So it would be great if we can continue this conversation and make sure that those students have an opportunity to get access to internships as well, whether I make it a hub or whether we find something else or whether we directly provide you that opportunity. So thank you for sharing that.
Thank you.
Emma Koji, is that how you say?
Yeah, yes. Okay, so I heard the aspect that you would be willing to come to classes, campuses, and present this important conversation. As I think about it, that might be logistically very challenging to do. And I also heard about the fact that we are here and we could be a resource to you. Is there a way that CUNY Central can push to all of the colleges that we represent to sort of like have each one of us, or if we are two from each campuses, to somehow be an extension of your office under whatever kinds of stipulations or agreement to actually do the work there, and when necessary, bring you in? I think that would be logistically important and sustainable. Yes, sustainable.
So Rachel, I don't know the depths of the partnership here, but I think my team and I are more than happy to come out to campuses, and I appreciate you thinking about the logistics. But I think there's definite ways that we can either share content and materials. We can even share presentations like this so that you have it packaged for you to share. And if you have a cohort, even within the fellows of students, I'm happy to host an info session, which we have. So we're open to many different ways of doing this, whatever is feasible and has the most reach to the students. So all of the above we can provide. And then any feedback you give us, we can adjust accordingly to make sure that it's successful. But having that timeline, having the open recruitment, all those things. And I'm assuming if there's like a listserv of just the fellows, we're happy to add this. I can send information accordingly. But sorry, Rachel, yeah, I wasn't sure if there's anything.
Oh, yeah, well,
Yeah.
I just wanted to acknowledge Imakoji, how generous ultimately your offer is. And I think absolutely positively the Career Success Fellows are an extension of you know, all of the efforts that we're making across the university around this. And so as all of you formulate your plans for outreach to additional faculty, you know, I heard Marissa talking about the fact that, you know, she wanted to think about how she could get this in front of additional faculty. I think it makes complete sense for all of you to be a part of the communication flow here. And the more you can make it visible to your colleagues and your students, the more students who can access these opportunities, you know, so hugely important. I don't think we need to formally declare that you guys are an extension of any particular office. You are, you are our champions here. That's exactly what we hope you will do. So I think it's just a matter of getting you the content you need to, you know, to share that information.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anjana? Anjana?
Yeah, hi. Yeah, Anjana, hi. So I like the idea of you visiting or your to each
Teams.
campus and
Yeah.
discuss the course. That is perfect. But at the same time, is there a possibility that a 2 minute video can be posted for the students, at least kind of they know when the summer deadline is, when the spring deadline is, and then we keep on circulating those videos in our classroom in variety. I'm from the STEM field, so that would help when faculty tells them. There will be more and more students will be included and would like to participate. And
So that's
maybe it's not the right time, but is there a way that these internships can be embedded in the curriculum? And if so, how, like the students instead of the stipend probably can get the credit for their work?
So that's going to come up in part of our, when we have our open discussion talking about the challenges, but a few people have mentioned this, and that's something definitely that we're going to be working towards. And that's under the banner of our initiative called Careers Across the Curriculum. And that's one of the things that we're focusing on is how to get paid internship courses. I think Marissa mentioned before about the challenges of if this, then that type of thing, but that's definitely something that we're working on. And that we want to make happen. And we're going to partner with the campuses to learn what are the challenges and the barriers to making that happen. But on your point about the video, that's not something we do right now, but I think it's a great idea. I can take it back to this team and see what the level of effort it is to do that and then make that available. so that folks can easily like play that on a monitor or have it on repeat or loop it somewhere. So that makes sense. Thank you. Was there another question? I thought I saw a hand raised.
There are a couple in the chat.
In the
Let me
chat.
pull them out while we look at hands. Dean Savage is asking if you work directly with the campus career engagement staff.
So we've had conversations, but the teams are the ones that are working more directly with them. So they have access to them with the programs. I'm not sure if there's a specific question, Dean, that you have about how we work with them, but we share and we promote all of the opportunities through the Career Center offices, Career Services offices, sorry. And there's some feedback loops that happen as well.
My question had to do with the fact that it seems to me that it would make enormous sense for you to be working hand in glove with campus career engagement staff, as in fact, the CUNY Career Fellows should as well. We should all get to know each other. We should be having a habit of working together. And I'm a little surprised that they are not looped into this automatically.
So by this, if you mean the internships, they are made aware of it. They're, like I said, we share the opportunities with them and we work with them. Again, there are 25 campuses. It depends on the type of opportunities and how they want to market. I don't know that specifically, so that's a fair point. But we do share the opportunities with them, and they are aware of myself and the team here. But we don't have a strategic relationship in the sense of working hand in hand, like you're saying, or hand in glove like that. So that is something definitely that we will think about, just like we're thinking about how to embed this more so working with you folks.
Thank you.
Thanks. Glenn?
Glenn, I see your hand.
Hi, thank you so much for this presentation. So I think I want to just highlight what Dean Savage says and Emma Koshin earlier. I think we have been going through this process now for the last 3 months, and most of us as faculty that are going through this, including myself, who are lecturers, we're not like faculty, so we're professional lecturers. We are startled by the lack of collaboration. One, like, Rachel, I would say this, but we have been talking a lot over the last couple of months. We're startled by the lack of communication. Even just the idea that you mentioned, like 3,000 students have internship, like that's like baffling to me. Like that's not even practical, basically. But anyway, so I think the idea is that every single conversation we have had since, the faculty members are sharing the same concern. It is not marginally practical for it to be done the way you're thinking about it, or the way the whole system is being thought about it. There needs to be a more effort of, one, a liaison between the two, the college and what you guys are doing. There needs to be this, because as faculty, we go back to our chair or dean, and they're still not getting it. We don't know if the directive is not coming down to them, but they're not getting it. So if we have, say, 4 or 5 classes to teach, we just don't have the bandwidth to do anything else, basically. And then your support get lost in translation, unfortunately, because we do understand the need for this. We do understand the need. You should probably have around 80% to 90% of the students getting an internship in their second year. Like every school I've been to, it has been this way. Basically, I'm much older, and that has been going on when I was in college, basically. So I think that there has to be a realignment and a really strategic thinking about where is the breakdown between what's going on the campus and what you guys are doing on the other departments, because there's several other departments doing several different things. And I want to stress the idea that there has to be a liaison between the two that can talk to the faculties and talk to you guys. I hear Rachel, we don't have to mandate this, but Iman Koshi is right. You have to mandate this. If it's loosely put there, the dean won't listen to you, the chairs won't listen to you. If it is not done, all of this that we're doing will be for zero. And it will be really frustrating, because the things that we went through, myself, Iman Koshi, and a few other professors with Rachel and the job council over the last 4 months. It is really impactful what's going on, unbelievable impactful what's going on. And to our surprise, all of this has been going on and we didn't even know it existed on the campus. And the faculty and the deans don't know, and the chairs don't know, and most of them don't even potentially care because they just see themselves as a learning institution. But when you talk about 3,000 students having internships, that is a fail from in any regards you look at it. So I think Iman coach is right and the dean is right. We have to pull the whole thing into place. Basically, the career center and the faculties who wants to do this has to be given course release, 2 courses released, and said, okay, your role is to work directly with all of these places to coordinate this with the faculty, because most faculties don't even want to entertain it at all. They don't. And I will stop here, but you should know that they don't have time. They're doing research. And that's their role. That's their job.
Right. And
Right.
I don't want you to stop. I think this is this is what makes this useful and practical. I just want to highlight a few things, right? So when I say 3,000, that's just the 3 programs that I highlighted, right? Within OSIP, our focus is running central programs, which we serve around maybe 45 to 5,000 students, right? Our goal is to make sure over the 25 campuses that each campus can work independently to serve the students that they have. And until that happens, this is what we're doing, and we're thinking about scale, and we're having these discussions with you. And I completely understand. I can maybe say the frustration of like wanting to make that impact and change when there's so many different stakeholders with different priorities or that are not aligning. And I think kind of to what Rachel was saying before, part of what I'm interested in doing and what we should be doing together is working together to make those changes. So having this campus engagement piece is absolutely right. I cannot, my goal is not to reach everyone because I can't as the central office and a program that's serving a specific set of students. My goal is to make sure that we can embed this so that the requirements are in the colleges and the campuses to make sure that there's a paid internship course for every degree path, right? So that, like to your point about by their sophomore year, early junior, they have the internship experience so that they can make decisions on what they want to do. But CUNY as an institution is not there yet, but our work together is what we're going to do to get there. And the discussions like we have like this and accountability and being honest and truthful is what we all show up for and push for. So
I'm on it. The reason yes, let me just be clear. I'm not saying that you are basically can do it, but I think obviously what Imakoji is saying is exactly right. There has to be some coordination between where the laser and part of the reason why I said this is because even if it's 10,000 students out of 40,000 students, it's still a fail. Anything less than 70%, in my opinion, because you're seeing it in other places. You see startups that don't even have a tenth of the resources that CUNY has are placing 90-95% of students in internships. So we have to ask ourselves, why are we not doing it? So I think we just need to take a step back and really ask ourselves. The frustration for me going through this for the last 3 to 4 or 5 months is to see how many resources and the great job people like Rachel and Lauren is doing. But I keep asking myself, if we keep going down the same road, there will be no results. We won't change the parameters. And 2030 is just
around the corner. Yeah.
You should be doing this next year. I'm really sorry to say it. I hope I'm not coming across the wrong way to my faculty.
No, not at all.
But 2030 is like, whoa, okay, fine. By then I'll be dead and gone. Like seriously, like I'll be.
I mean, this is super important, Glenn, and I love that you're just putting it out there. I think we need to have these conversations. One thing I'll say, and I bet Kathy has some thoughts about this too, but you all may have heard Kathy say at some point as part of a conversation we were having with you that we realize there's so many dimensions to this work, and one of them is how to reward faculty who are engaged in this space. And we know that a lot of the tenure and promotion protocols in place have ignored any work connected to the career success of our students. That in and of itself would incentivize participation. If there were some changes to tenure and promotion, that would incentivize participation in these conversations in ways that right now we're having to use course release and summer salary, et cetera, to incentivize. And that's basically when funders are saying to us, we care about this, we're going to give you money, now pay your faculty to do this outside of, their other responsibilities. So this, I mean, we've said before, this is about culture change. We realize that takes time, but the fact that you and other faculty like you are seeing this and saying this, I think is a big deal. And I mean, Kathy, I wonder what's on your mind.
Yeah, I mean, I'm so happy you brought this up because I think it's the single biggest obstacle we have. I actually think is less institutional than the fact that none of us were trained even to be teachers, let alone to be career counselors and to understand how to connect what we're doing to careers. And for the last 20 years, this has been my passion and what I go around. And it doesn't matter whether I'm talking at the Ivy Leagues or the most impoverished community college or anywhere around the world, we're all going through a culture change because I think for a long time, at least for 2 decades, a lot of for-profit and not necessarily very student-minded or egalitarian institutions have been trying to push vocational training in a very, very cynical way. So how you help higher education that is based on an idea of popular education rethink what it's doing as in fact conduits to future jobs and careers. I think that's why the chancellor came up with something with a name as audacious as the Office of Transformation. This is a major, major cultural change. When Rachel and others sent out the survey and the OGs, last year's Career Success Fellows, sent out the survey to our CUNY faculty asking about their involvement, I bet, and I would have put money on it if I were a betting person, that 200 people would respond to that. And I think we got 1,600 responses. And like 75%, 90% said, we want to know more. We would like to help. We don't know how. So this is the ground force of something that's really just beginning at CUNY, but it's not much better even at our most well-heeled institutions. And especially the compartmentalization of faculty and what we do and the rewards as faculty from career services. So all of these ways that our faculty want to be career service vanguard is, to me, the most optimistic things. I brag about our numbers when we go to other places that haven't even begun yet. And Glenn, what you're saying could not be more important. So in no way am I contradicting you. I'm just simply talking from a different perspective where I'm pretty surprised and impressed and very grateful for how much activity there is here. And we have a huge, huge way to go, including in public perception, way, way beyond CUNY. Employers don't know either. Employers tend to say that on the one hand that students aren't prepared, and on the other hand that college is what they want for their incoming new employees. So we have a lot of communication work to do, and I think we've got a great vanguard of people here, and we have to keep raising those questions. So thank you so much for bringing that up, Glenn.
Please, may I say something really quick? I'm sorry that I have to. May I, please?
Of course, yes. Yeah.
This work that we're doing is unquantifiably profound in terms of the impact potentially that it will generate in the lives of our students, where value added in terms of educational time and money investment. So it's very profound, it's revolutionary, and I'm happy that it's coming directly from the office of the chancellor. And so far, what I have done on my campus, even this morning, I belong to the enrollment and retention committee that brings the provost and VP for academic affairs, the deans, the different administrative powers that be at BCC. So I sent an email to them last week, that I want to present things related to career services. And one of the things I did was put CUNY career success on the table, emphasize how profoundly important it is, how it is in the centerpiece of why community college exists. And I made the argument sort of like trying to get to the powers that be and put that in their thinking. And that can then make my journey, whatever I have to do as part of this commitment on the campus, a lot easier. So I've been able to garner support from that. And I've done that with my department, I'm lucky that my chairperson is pro everything like this. So I have received that support from him. And then Glenn and I, over the summer, were given the assignment by Lauren Addison, the provost, to career map selected programs from our department, which I did. I also put that on their table. In fact, they were all excited and they were for it. So I think there's a little bit of some of that we could, as faculties, do. But like Glenn said, not every maybe dean, chair will be receptive, because I also participated in the New York CEO Job Council Fellowship the year before, 2 years ago. From that team that brought all of the community colleges from CUNY at the end, in terms of the campuses that succeeded in creating apprenticeship program, there was just very handful few. The others just disappeared. Nothing worked out. Again, speaking about some of that opposition. So something from the chancellor's office, from this office that Rachel and Kathy are in charge, I think it will somehow stimulate a little bit of attention. That would be helpful for those who don't have that kind of environment that I'm lucky to have on my own campus.
Thank you so much. Gada.
Yeah, thank you for all you provided, Amna. And probably I'm in the minority because we are graduate school, so I'm sorry if my question will not be relevant to everyone. But you mentioned the OTI type of fellowship from the Office of Technology and Innovation. Is there other opportunities similar? And would you be willing to come to campus? For us, we have a field work, which we take the internships, whether paid or unpaid, and every student would need to have a field work of sort of service learning. So internship is integral to that. We see employers everywhere in School of Public Health or in public health field, but is there like enough material for you to come over to our campus for graduate students?
Sure. There's also there's another fellowship called the Civil Service Pathways. That's where they work with city agencies. So maybe Department of Health might be a potential partner for you folks. So I can share what we have and who we work with, and then we can see what works. And if not, we can figure out how to source what would be the right relationships. Is it the school? Are you a school of public health or? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, we've had some conversations with them. So yeah, definitely we can talk about that. And like I said, I'm happy to use my MetroCard to get to where I need to go. So no worries. And we have those discussions, get to meet, everybody. So I will definitely get more information, but even if not like Department of Health or other agencies, I think they're always looking for opportunities too. So we can at least make the effort and try.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, of course.
Excellent. Isabel, I see your hand. I know that you have more slides to show us, and you had some additional questions. So once we hear from Isabel, maybe we can hurry through the rest of your presentation.
Sure, no worries. This has been great. Yeah. Hi, Isabel.
Thank you. My question might connect to something you might cover, Amna. I simply wanted to point out that in the sciences, in psychology, for example, and neuroscience, we rely very heavily on research assistantships in terms of preparing students for the experience of either going to graduate school or potentially obtaining a job in research. And,
I think we've lost you, Isabel.
Individual research boards, the psychology executive office used to, about a decade ago, in terms of CUNY-wide as far as opportunities for research. And we really need to do more to encourage to encourage our students, to engage in these opportunities. Prior to coming back to CUNY, I was at a top 10 college in the top 10 liberal arts college in the United States. My students had the funds to go to Cincinnati and intern at the Cincinnati Children's Hospital and have their parents rent an apartment for them over the summer. My students also had the funds to go to DC and intern at different federal agencies. So our students here at CUNY do not have those opportunities. And really, if we're going to address social stratification, if we're going to address justice, if we're going to address inclusion, we have to do a better job of communicating that these opportunities are out there. And I'm especially concerned because, our students are graduating with degrees in, psychology, sociology, in biology, chemistry, in all of these different fields where research is central, but they don't necessarily know that they're supposed to have the research experience, and they also don't know where to look. And, they don't have private coaches, and we don't have, the resources on individual campuses necessarily to do certain things. One of my colleagues mentioned in the chat that Macaulay Honors has a board, but it would be wonderful if we had something that was more centralized, just so that we can put our students on a more even playing field.
Thank you, Isabel. I definitely am taking away from here that there's a focus and need for something that's more tied to the social and sciences that Gada, that you mentioned as well. So you're correct that there isn't anything that's centralized here, and definitely making sure that our students are aware of the opportunities and finding ways to fund them. I think that's one of the unique challenges, even to maybe some of what Glenn was saying. The characteristics of our students and the challenges they have are in itself challenging to get past, on top of having these requirements for them to get these internships, to get to the networks, to get the opportunities that they need. So all of this work that Rachel and Kathy are doing, and Lauren, I think that's what we're trying to get at, is to build the awareness, to make sure that the tools and resources are there and the data that we need is there to make sure that we can make these opportunities available seamlessly across all the campuses, and not just because someone found something out from someone, right? So definitely something to talk about. To Rachel's point, just in a few minutes, I wanted to share also internship to employment. This is a focus for students that are seniors and recent graduates within the last 18 months or so. So then if they never had an internship, this is a chance for them to get into that door. Again, this is an opportunity where it's $20 an hour. They work with a business to 8 to 10 weeks. And then if the employer hires them, we subsidize it for 20 weeks to incentivize the employer to take on this, the intern. This opportunity is open through October 1st. We focus on working with New York City small businesses. These are just some of the sectors that we work within. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me. I've also hyperlinked the application if you want to share this with any of your students. This is open to community college students as well, not just the four-year schools. So this is open to all of our students across that are graduating or have graduated and didn't have a chance to do an internship. So I just wanted to make sure that there was awareness and you had access to the requirements. So in the next few minutes, and a lot of the discussion we've had so far is what we were going to get into. So this has been really great, and I appreciate everyone being comfortable and frank and open with all of their feedback. So another form of feedback I wanted to share that we're started doing is the feedback we got from employers to understand how our students are doing when it comes to internships, right? So the variety of programming that, again, this is just central feedback. It's not feedback from across the campuses, from all the different internship opportunities that are out there. But what we've heard so far in a preliminary way is that we have students that go to these opportunities that are eager to participate. They're eager, they understand how to articulate what their interest is and what they want to do. A lot of the attraction to the employers is the fact that our students speak multiple languages, which a lot of, especially when we're working with city agencies or electeds, is a desired skill that is needed. Obviously in New York City, more so. Some of the areas that we're hearing back from them, and we're trying to do some focus groups with the employers to learn more, is that they're looking for our students to have stronger skills when it comes to strategic thinking and being more proactive, not waiting for the next task or not waiting to say, I don't know. They're looking for students that are going to be willing to put a little bit more effort in and figure things out based on the project they're working on or the task that they had. And then I think across the board post-COVID, we've heard this feedback in the last few years has been the idea of students being proactively communicating things. I'm not going to be in today. I'm going to be late. I don't know what to do. I don't know where to go. Things of that nature. Time management, typical workplace norms. Even when it's down to attire, we've had to focus and build that into our professional development in the pre-internship training so that students understand, like, the sector you're going into, think about that, think about the office that you're going into. Even if it's going to be remote and you're online, think about how you're presenting yourself. And then I think the project management piece is the hardest one, of understanding what understanding students have about how they're organized, how they can collect information, how they can document things. So this is just something that we've had for this past summer, but my goal is to work on these so that we can create the right professional development workshops for students so that they have access to this, and also share it with you folks to think about how we can make sure that our students can improve on these skills.
Well, and by the way, I mean, this is perfectly aligned with what we heard recently from our friends at NACE when they were talking about workplace competencies, right? The critical thinking, the communication,
Yes.
you know, working on a team, you know, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so,
Adapting, yeah.
yeah, so as our faculty members think about integration of these workplace competencies, like how are we talking about that? I think that in and of itself will help to address some of this because students are thinking more explicitly about them as workplace competencies.
Thanks. Yeah. So I wanted to share that with you folks, and the next set was going to be talking about what we talked about a little bit, but more focused on how we could work together. And it's a lot of what people have mentioned. There is a focus across the campuses from the chancellor's office to think about what can we do more to get our students prepared and aware of the opportunities for paid internships, the key thing being paid. And the challenges I think that have been already mentioned is the lack of awareness, a lack of consistent set of tools, not having the data or data management system to be able to use this, and other resources that come up individually based on oftentimes where a campus is located or where the student can access internship or an employment opportunity. Now, these are not meant to be like, we're not going to be able to do it. It's good to acknowledge where we are so that we know what we need to work on to make the improvement. So this is just like a transition slide to say, acknowledging that these are the challenges and what we need to work on to make sure that we can put our best effort forward for our students. And again, I think we've covered a lot of this. If there's anybody else that would like to add, I know there's some more in the chat, but I did want to hear more specifically about how students in your classrooms are approaching you for information about internships or guidance, or even how you source that information when it comes up. So I know we only have like 2 minutes left, so we can save this, Rachel, maybe for another conversation. We can follow up over email, but I do want to give folks who haven't had a chance to say something or any closing thoughts or comments, if that's okay, considering the time. I don't know.
We've got a couple hands up. Nerve.
No.
Hello, good afternoon. Thank you so much, Amna, for your presentation. First time I met you, I was really impressed with your commitment and hard work and everything that you do for our students. One of the reasons why I participated in the Career Success Fellow is because my niece is graduating at Hunter College, and she reached out to me, asking for help, like urgent help on how to get internships. And so I workshop with her about her CV, etc. But that's the extent so far of my expertise, right? To kind of like help her rethink about her CV towards, from kind of customer service to like to look like a professional CV. So my question is like, I asked my niece about reaching out to their career success advisors on campus, and she said she had met with them and gave her some information, but then that stopped there. And I was wondering, is there a way where we can actually have almost like a case manager somehow, like a person in the college that will really make sure that no one's left behind, that for students who reach out to their offices would somehow take them under their wing to make sure that they actually end up with an internship, rather than just like a one-time workshop on their CV, a one-time workshop on what to do with the interviews, but actually really guide them along the way of the process until we can guarantee them an internship. I was wondering if there's a structure or a program where we can set those case managers kind of, I don't know, like responsibility for our CUNY staffers and colleagues. I don't know. I'm curious to hear what your thoughts are.
So I think finding the human investment is always challenging, the cost associated and the disbursement around the campuses. But there are tools that we're investing in that could be helpful for examples of like what you mentioned with your niece. We're working on tools like that are for like VMOC, for example. I believe that's what it's called, where you can feed in your resume and it helps you update it and make it applicable to the skills that you have and the format that it needs to be in. There's also investment in other platforms and software to make it easier for students to help themselves in a way, but also when they're working with an advisor or working with a career center, it helps them move along faster pace. As far as an investment in within each campus or even centrally to look at that, that is something that I think comes up often. And Rachel, I don't know if there's been anything recently, but I think that is one of the more challenging resources that we haven't been able to identify or
Oh, yeah.
create a plan around.
And it's hugely different depending on the campus. I mean, there's some career services that's like 1 or 2 people, and some that are much more robust operations. I see Deborah's note here that they have special career advisor and as an experiential learning staff to help students. So it's just the infrastructure that exists at each college is really based on local decisions that are made, and the resources. It's always about resources. I know that the ratio of students to career services staff is not so great across the board at CUNY. So certainly understand when you talk about the follow through and the kind of customer service, right? That our students deserve, that is lacking here. So definitely a fair comment. Sharona, your hand was up and then it went down. Does that mean you've
well, just because we were getting to 5, so I didn't want to
no last word?
Go too much over. I just want to say that there are programs like mine where internships are required for graduation. And it's really tough because it's left to the students and me to try to cobble something together with almost no support. And there are a lot of places around the country that do that. My field is communication. And that's not unknown around the country, but in many places they have a staff person who that's their job, is internships. Right. And resources is a big deal, and I get no reassigned time, and I oversee every student that does an internship.
We need a census of internships,
but
so
that's
we'll all know just how terrible in some quarters things really are.
Well,
we need to gather the data, and then we can start to talk about how we can improve things.
Exactly what I want to say. So I think there are more programs than you realize that are probably doing internships. So I wouldn't make any assumptions. I would reach out and actually ask how many academic programs are requiring, or either required or or optional, but many of them. I'm trying to put together a group of everyone on the campus doing it academically.
What campus are you at?
Brooklyn College. But secondly, I think it's very important to share resources across CUNY. So I very much applaud that, because a lot of colleges don't feel comfortable sharing of something. My thing is a CUNY student should get an internship if it comes across my way. So I think it's increasingly hard, and there's legal issues about people like me who aren't really trained to do this, just sort of stepping in and doing it. So I encourage all those your efforts, and we need to do a lot more for our students.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Well, I mean, that's the perfect note. Amna, could you drop your email address in the chat? Because I have a feeling you're going to get a lot of emails after this workshop. And thank you for your willingness to respond to them and begin conversations about next steps. This is so much, I mean, lots of really profound questions that have been asked. Appreciate everyone's engagement today. There's a lot of work yet to do, and I'm glad that all of you are a part of it. So Amna, any last words from you before we say goodnight?
I want to say thank you to you and your team. And I think this is the culture change work that we all came here for. This is just my 1 year recently, and I'm really excited. And please do reach out, any questions just to discuss, or invite me and my team. This is how it works. Everyone has to take a step. So even if it's just to brainstorm or chat or talk, please do reach out. And thank you, Rachel, for putting this together. Thanks.
Absolutely. All right, well, everyone, it is 5:05. You've been very generous with your time. Thank you. And I hope we'll see a bunch of you at our last workshop on Friday about career mapping. Kathy, anything from you?
No, just thank you all. It's a very long journey. This is clearly just a beginning, but that there's so many people willing to give their time is just inspiring to me. I know how busy all of you are and how overstretched and overworked. It's amazing to me, and always inspiring. And I'm always grateful to have such fabulous, fabulous colleagues. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks,
Have a good
everyone.
night.
Have a great week.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.